morning will be led by the Lord's Prayer, and I'm going to ask my good cousin and member for Parliament to lead us in the Lord's Prayer this morning.
Our Father,
Okay. This one
in
now.
heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Fred Mitchell, Glennis Hannah Martin, Alfred Sears, Dr. Michael Darville, Clay Sweeting, Keith Bell, Rowe, Vaughn Miller, Jobeth Colby Davis, Ginger Moxie, Mario Boleg, Jomo Campbell, Basil McIntosh, Miles LaRota, Pia Glover Roll, Lisa Ramming, Zane Lightbourne, Dr. Hubert Minnis, Jamal Strawn, John Pinder, Barkus Roll, Leon Lundy, Kirk Cornish, Wade Watson, Leonardo Lightbourne, Leslie Miller Bryce, Leroy Major, Sylvanus Petty, Mikhail Barnaby, Michael Pintard, James Kwesi Thompson, Aram Lewis, Shannon Dawn Cartwright, Adrian Gibson, Adrian White, Kingsley Smith.
Okay. Good morning, honorable members. Today, we will begin the midterm budget. I see I have a big lineup here today, so I'm asking members to please stay on point as we go through the budget today. But before we begin, I'd like to share with you a communication. Honorable members, I wish to inform the Parliament of the formation of the Office of Pensions by the Parliamentary Service Commission. This is perhaps a good place to explain the composition of the institution. The head of the Parliament is the Governor General, who summons, prorogues, and dissolves the Parliament. Next in the composition comes the Upper House, generally referred to as the Senate. And finally, we have the Lower House, generally referred to as the House of Assembly. The Office of Pensions was created to assist members with their pension entitlements, their retirement benefits, their health benefits, and their intended death benefits where applicable. This unit will cater to all members who fall into the category of members of Parliament and retired members of Parliament. It will also cater, to prospective members of Parliament who are eventually successful in being either elected or appointed. The unit will grow in terms of the scope of what it does to assist members and former members of Parliament. It will also seek to expand the myriad of ways by which it will be able to assist persons who fall into the several named categories. The core function of the unit will be to assist members in first ascertaining and finally accessing their lawful entitlements. The Office of Pensions will be the first point of contact for members and former members in matters of pensions, death, and sickness benefits. This will also include matters of categories and protocol matters for senators, members, and governor generals. The unit today is being led by Mrs. Talia Winters, who is with us in the public gallery today. Could you please stand, Mrs. Winters, so the members can see you? Mrs. Winters is, thank you. Mrs. Winters is presently creating a database of all members and former members of Parliament, including Governor Generals, senators, and members of the House of Assembly. We are proud and excited about the work we are doing in the parliamentary institution, and this is just one of several initiatives the institution will undertake in the near future under the guidance of its Parliamentary Service Commission. Mrs. Winters can be contacted by the phone contact at the following numbers. The House of Assembly at 322280, also at 3287138. Her mobile phone number is 557-0850. These numbers will be scrolled across the bottom of the screen on the parliamentary channel for the duration of this sitting. Thank you, honorable members. We will now revert back to the order of business. Introduction and swearing in of new members. Laying of documents by ministers. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Freetown.
No laying of documents.
Thank you, honorable member. Statement and communication by ministers.
No statement and communication.
Thank you, honorable member. Communications by the clerk. Message. Okay.
Madam Speaker, I beg leave to report delivery of message number 34 to the Honorable of the Senate.
Thank you, honorable member. Thank you. One day you might be an honorable member. Hey. Messages from the Senate. Yes, we do have a message from the Senate. There's a message from the Senate, number 21. Message to the Speaker and members of the Honorable House of Assembly from the President and honorable members of the Senate. The Honorable Senate acquaints the Honorable House of Assembly that they have passed the following bills, accompanying message number 34, dated 19th February 2025, from the Honorable House of Assembly. A bill for an act to constitute an independent commission to conduct investigations into allegations of participation in serious breaches of the law by members of the security forces and specified public officials to provide for the functions, powers, organization, and management of the Commission and for connected matters. A bill for an act to combat wrongdoing in the public and private sectors by encouraging, facilitating, and protecting disclosures made to an authority designated for the purposes of investigating and determining wrongdoing and for connected purposes. It is signed by the Vice President, the Honorable Senate, the Honorable Barry A. Griffin, dated 3rd of March, 2025. Order that the document do lie on the table. We'll revert back to the order of business. Motions for leave of absence, leave to resign seat, and new writs. Presentations of petitions, presentations of reports of committees, adoption of reports of committees. First reading of bills.
No first reading of bills.
Thank you, honorable member. Second reading in committal of bills. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Cat Island, Ramkey, and San Salvador.
Madam Speaker, I rise to have the second reading and committal of Bill number 96, a bill for an act to amend the value-added tax. And this follows upon the statement of the mid-year budget, and in that light, Madam Speaker, we would wish to add, during the course of the debate, we expect a compendium of items will be enveloped and embraced in this debate, and that will include a bill for an act to amend the Domestic Minimum Top-Up Tax Act, a bill for an act to amend the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute Act, a bill for an act to amend the Business License Act, and a bill for an act to amend the Road Traffic Act. We expect that the contributions made in respect to this will include those bills, and in addition, the 3 borrowing resolutions, one for $300 million, the other for $25 million in respect to the University of the Bahamas, and $75 million in respect to the Public Hospitals Authority. And we would expect that our contribution towards the bill that I've spoken to will embrace those items as well. Madam Speaker, Cat Island, Ramkey, and San Salvador are so special, so beautiful you can't help but wonder that God chose to bestow so many blessings on these islands. Whenever I'm in any of those islands these days, particularly in Cat Island, I think of my grandparents. They were in Cat Island, who grew me up. They were not the type of people to complain, but they did work hard, very hard, to get by. I wish they could see what is happening in Cat Island now. The work on the Cat Island, on the Arthurstown and New Bight airports, the nearly 100 miles of roadworks underway, along with one of the largest waterworks projects in the country today. We are building a new era, Madam Speaker, of opportunity and change, and you can be sure Cat Island is going to be part of it. Ramkey's airport terminal is on the way. The clinic is substantially completed, and we are looking to construct a new administration building shortly. On San Salvador, their new high school is shortly to be looked at and underway, and the roadworks, which is currently before the Tenders Committee for approval, too, will begin shortly. Now, Madam Speaker, family islanders have always been forced to choose. Have always been forced to choose. To gain access to certain kinds of opportunities has meant leaving behind the tight-knit communities, the traditions, and the tranquility of small island life. But now, sooner than you think, those opportunities for education, for work, for business ownership, for professional development, for advanced healthcare will be available on all islands throughout our archipelago. Yes. Billions in new private sector investments, hundreds of millions in government-led initiatives and public-private partnerships, rapid advances in technology, new hybrid energy grids to drive down costs and increase reliability of electricity. Madam Speaker, finally, our country is making the kind of long overdue infrastructure and technology investments that are critical to improving the quality of life and opportunities in our family islands. None of it is easy. We are encountering all the obstacles that have prevented progress and modernization in the past. The high costs, the supply chain problems, the shipping delays, slow-moving bureaucracy. And I repeat that again, slow-moving bureaucracy. But we are fighting our way through all of that. Madam Speaker, developing the potential of our family islands is vital to our nation's progress. We are finally on a path to a more inclusive Bahamian economy, one in which opportunity and prosperity lift up more Bahamians than ever before. Madam Speaker, we are living in times of profound change, presenting our country with both formidable challenges and unprecedented opportunities. The risks and dangers are not insignificant. Significant shifts in geopolitics and global trade are creating new uncertainties, with some analysts forecasting turbulence ahead. The global inflation crisis is unfortunately not entirely in the rear-view mirror. Cyber attacks increasingly have the potential to cause catastrophic damage. A changing climate is disrupting economic growth and endangering lives. No nation is immune. These are challenges that must be confronted by all. That's why we have devoted significant budget expenditures to strengthening and protecting our country. But as serious as these challenges are, and they are very serious, we should also have enormous optimism about our country's prospects. That's because this is also a time of extraordinary opportunity, one in which Bahamians can thrive as we take on long-standing problems with new energy and new solutions. No one should doubt that our little country can do big things, even when facing significant headwinds. We have always punched above our weight, Madam Speaker. Just think about how far we have come. It was only 3.5 years ago, that our country's economy was in tatters, our nation's finances in free fall, our hospitals, schools, and communities in crisis. Tens of thousands of Bahamians had lost their jobs. School closures affected 50,000 of our students. The cost of the pandemic to our country was estimated by the Inter-American Development Bank at $9.5 billion. That's on top of the $3.4 billion in damages and losses from Hurricane Dorian. Then, just as we began our administration, a global inflation crisis led to prices rising across the world faster than they had in more than 40 years. That's what we met in place. We didn't let the scale and complexity of the challenges get in our way. We started implementing our blueprint for change on day one. First came rescue, digging out of severe crisis, ending harmful punitive policies, and offering compassion and relief instead. Then recovery. We moved quickly, faster than our competitors, to open our economy, working hard to get Bahamians back to work while offering free testing and medical support that were always the smarter alternative to lockdowns and curfews. We pulled the country back from a fiscal cliff, ending speculation about currency devaluation, increased taxes, and stabilized the country's finances. That's what we did. Madam Speaker. We lowered VAT to 10% against advice and recommendation to increase VAT to 15% to bring it in line as was recommended with regional average. We lowered customs duties, introduced policies to expand domestic food production, and we invested in protecting our borders and our communities. We spent tens of millions repairing schools which had been closed for too long, worked hard to bring back children who had stopped attending, conducted our country's first nationwide learning assessment, added new resources, expanded our vocational and technical training, and began an overdue revamp of the curriculum. Despite skepticism and opposition from some quarters, we raised the minimum wage, which equated to an extra 1 week pay per month. After years in which no homes had been built, we started building affordable homes. After years in which the wealthiest had been allowed to avoid paying their fair share of taxes, we are collecting taxes owed by the wealthy and big companies. We have negotiated a record number of labor agreements, increasing salaries and improving benefits. We are undertaking an expansion and renovations at Princess Margaret Hospital and clinics throughout our islands. We launched our country's first nationwide comprehensive energy reforms because unreliable and expensive electricity have been holding back our economy for too long, impacting investments, business expansion, our capacity to diversify, and job creation. We are taking a deteriorating, crumbling, expensive grid dependent on heavy and diesel fuels, a grid that in no way can meet growing demand, and we are building a new energy era. Finally, solar panels are going up, costs are going down. Our policies are fueling our nation's recovery, a recovery the International Monetary Fund called remarkable, meaning it was far from inevitable. Our hard work to promote our beautiful country and to create new strategic partnerships has paid off. When in 2023, we had nearly $10 million arrivals, nobody stopped to rest. We kept working, and in 2024, welcomed more than 11 million tourists. Here in New Providence, Atlantis is considering expansion. Bahama is expanding. Ocean Club is expanding. And we have a major new foreign and domestic investments springing up throughout the island. In Grand Bahama, we have a new cruise port, a major upgrade to the container port, a new trading hub, and multiple new resorts, all in the works. Bimini, Exuma, Andros, Abaco, San Salvador, and nearly every inhabited island in our archipelago, including Cat Island, have seen unprecedented investor interest as dozens of major new projects are underway. More investment will bring more revenue, increase entrepreneurial opportunities, and more jobs. A strong tourism sector can grow alongside new initiatives to diversify our economy. But there's so much more to do. Madam Speaker, there's so much more to do. Even with thousands back to work and unemployment at its lowest level since 2008, and the largest GDP last year in our nation's country, there's still much more to do. That means this is the largest our economy has ever been. In fact, each year of our term, including last year and the 2 years prior, has produced economic growth higher than pre-COVID growth numbers. But we are still paying off the massive debts we inherited. Debts run up because of Dorian, and the pandemic, and I add, bad policy choices made during the management of these crises. The high cost of living and barriers to progress mean too many Bahamians aren't thriving yet. The truth is, there's never been a time when our economy created enough opportunities for Bahamian advancement and ownership. That's why we are working to create a new day, because the old day left too many people out. The most important way to build new paths to security and success is to invest in our people and to trust them too. And you can expect to see us build on existing initiatives with new and innovative policies to do just that. Madam Speaker, we have shown that compassion and strategic investments in our people and our country can coexist with fiscal responsibility. In September 2021, we met record high budgetary deficits in the hundreds of millions. Now we have delivered the lowest recorded deficits in years as we move closer to a balanced budget. We have knocked $1 billion off our deficit, while at the same time providing more funding for local governments, launching a National Youth Guard program, putting free Wi-Fi in our parks, expanding urban renewal outreach, and deploying new ambulances. I wish you could have all seen, Madam Speaker, the faces of our beautiful children at Yellow Elder Primary School, where I recently visited and had the honor of celebrating our special milestone, our school breakfast program, which has now served more than 500,000 free, hot, nutritious breakfasts. To our school children, so they can start their days ready to learn, grow, and thrive. A program that started with 9 schools is now serving 11,000 students in 91 schools across the length and breadth of our country. Next year, the program will be in every primary school in this country. Oh, yeah. Madam Speaker, the program hasn't only increased attendance and improved grades, it's helped families during a time when inflation has pushed prices up too high. The high cost of living, Madam Speaker, continues to remain one of our country's greatest challenges. In a few weeks, families will get a little relief. Beginning on the 1st of April, the value-added tax will be reduced from 10% to 5% on prepared foods, whether provided by grocery and convenience stores or imported directly. Unlike in the past, when merchants had to apply for VAT refunds on bread basket items after importing them, this time we have made a critical change. The VAT rate reduction will now be applied directly at the border and on all, not just bread basket items, on all groceries. Comes into the border, right? And Madam Speaker, and to ensure that there is no doubt, we have listed those items to the act that we now debate and to be the past, so there'll be no confusion.
That's right.
So now, this amendment to the value-added tax bill means that every Bahamian, whether a business owner or an individual, importing unprepared food items as listed and to the schedule to this bill, importing food items for their families will pay a lower rate upfront. This measure will result in more affordable prices on the shelves and greater access to essential foods for all Bahamians. Madam Speaker, we commend this bill, and we invite you to look at the list of grocery items.
Yes.
Thousands, I think,
Yes.
on the bill. Madam Speaker, our budget invests significantly in fighting crime. In the 3.5 years since we have been in office, our administration has hired hundreds more police officers, invested in new vehicles, bought more CCTVs, body cameras, and other equipment, and passed laws for harsher penalties for gang members and those who break the conditions of their bail. Our police force now has one of the highest crime detection rates in the region. If you commit a crime in this country, you are overwhelmingly likely to be caught. If you commit a crime in this country, the odds of you getting away with it is still. You will be caught. Even better, Madam Speaker, is preventing crimes in the first place. Preventing crimes from taking place in the first place. That is better in our view. Just over a year ago, we launched the Gang Crime and Justice Task Force. This is a cross-government effort chaired by me and co-chaired by the Minister of Education, Technical and Vocational Training, and the Minister of National Security. We bring a whole of government effort across what I call the 5 pillars of crime: prevention, policing, prosecution, punishment, and rehabilitation. We recently reported on the Clear, Coal, and Bill initiative launched in Engliston towards the end of last year, with promising results. In the area, crime is down, and residents report feeling safer. In order to ensure that the community moves forward into a better future, the bill phase is well underway and will continue for some time. A community center is being constructed. Skills, training, and job opportunities are being advanced. Conflict resolution, health and social service support have been intensified, along with the installation of more CCTVs and other initiatives to improve safety and well-being. The conditions which support crime did not arise overnight, and it will take time to restore that community to its former glory. But I know it can be done. And Engliston is just the beginning. Embracing what we learned in Engliston, we are already expanding the Clear Hole and Build initiative to the communities of Nassau Village and Carmichael Road. There has been considerable discussion. Let me turn to this subject matter. There has been considerable discussion about the cost of travel. Let me be clear. The benefits gained by travel have far, far exceeded the costs. Far, far exceeded the costs. The successful promotion of our country, the strategic partnerships and investments, the advocacy and coalition building, these have already justified the cost of travel many times over, not to mention the benefits which will continue to accrue. Record-breaking visitor numbers, new airlift, the removal of our country from the blacklist, record investment in the pipeline, including the $1.5 billion in Grand Bahama alone. The $200 million agreement just forged with the Afri-Exim Bank for infrastructure will be an important catalyst for economic growth and jobs in our country. The partnership, Madam Speaker, with the Nature Conservancy and multiple other collaborators is worth $124 million to our country in a debt-to-nature swap that we executed, the first of its kind in the region and the world the other day. Our ability to negotiate access to fair financing and fair insurance arrangements in a world of climate disruption will require working together with other nations in the same position. Climate change work faces challenges, but also breakthroughs on important fronts. That's because whether or not people believe in climate change believes in them. And as disasters multiply and insurance markets respond, the urgency for action grows. The United States currently contributes about 15% to global emissions. They are, of course, very important, but their policies are far from the full story. Playing a bigger role in the world stage, on the world stage, has meant the Bahamas is hosting more important events and hosting leaders of the world. That's what we've been doing. In addition to raising our profile and reputation, there are direct economic benefits, as a group of very kind livery drivers assured me the other day. A group of livery drivers sought to speak to me, to see me and pay a courtesy call on me. And it was about the fact of how well they did during the Afri-Exim Bank board and trade meeting here in the month of June of last year. And their stories were astounding. I told them, just don't come and tell me, they should tell the country. Right. Because they did so well during that time, telling it me, just keep it to me. If I go and tell them, as I'm speaking now, it might be questioned. I want them to say how well they did and what that meant. And that has to do with travel. It didn't have to be, that wouldn't have happened if there was no travel. So I think it's important, Madam Speaker, for Bahamians to know that many of those who travel, see, it's not just me who's traveling. Many of those who travel are young Bahamian experts who are serving their country, for whom the professional development, exposure, and networking with colleagues are invaluable. Investing in the next generation of policymakers is, in turn, surely indispensable to us as well. And so, Madam Speaker, in 2025, mitigating risks and leveraging opportunities requires outreach, requires collaboration, and requires strategic partnerships. So I encourage the members opposite to consider that their attacks on this issue may reflect how they view their political standing, rather than any thoughtful consideration of the matter. You know, they spent millions on travel as well, you know. And we have the record, but I'm not, you know, it doesn't matter for me to stoke that. Right? I'll leave it to you. Okay. They may want to reflect on the administration's failure. They may want to reflect on their administration's failure to bring in any significant investment during their term and possibly connect some dots. Consider it a learning opportunity, because this is actually quite serious. Many of the policies which will be imperative to our country in the years to come, from concessionary financing to crime fighting to border protection to climate adaptation and on and on and on, will require international cooperation. It will require international cooperation. It's an easy issue to demagogue, but it reflects poorly on their maturity in serious times.
Immature.
Madam Speaker, in my mid-year communication, I provided a breakdown of the key factors contributing to recurrent expenditures to date in the fiscal year. During the first half of the current fiscal year, we made crucial investments as outlined in our 2024-2025 budget. We designed this fiscal year's budget to accommodate increased investments in several areas. And indeed, these expenditure items have risen during the initial half of the fiscal year according to plan. There's been some confusion. I hope sincere, rather than calculated, about those investments being executed precisely as intended. I can assure you the details were clearly presented in the budget communication in May. Just as I can assure you that recurrent expending as a percent of budget in the first half of the current fiscal year falls within historical norms. Perhaps an example could be helpful. During this current fiscal period, the government has subsidized mailboat contracts, resulting in an increase of $4.4 million compared to the previous period, and total $6.9 million for the period. I made it a point to announce this initiative clearly in my budget communication in May. Mailboat contracts had not received any increases in over 10 years. I don't think I need to explain that mailboats are important to our island economy and to the citizens who depend upon them. Another spending initiative during the first 6 months of the fiscal year was the increase in the number of scholarships being offered to students attending the University of the Bahamas and attending the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute, along with grants for UWI medical students. Altogether, these investments in Bahamians total $23.5 million in the first half of the current fiscal year. This investment also encompasses the proactive approach taken by the government to front-load the execution of the capital budget allocated for the Ministry of Education. Furthermore, during this period, we also invested in essential services, such as garbage collection and network support. These two areas alone accounted for nearly $10 million increase compared to the previous year. These services are indispensable. And although maintaining and enhancing them is indeed a significant cost, I can't believe anyone would choose the hazards of insufficient investment in these areas. Madam Speaker, in my mid-year communication, I highlighted the commitment of this government to address cybersecurity seriously. Consider that even a single successful cyber breach could potentially cost our country tens of millions of dollars. Over the past 6 months, we have made significant investments in consultancy services to enhance our cybersecurity measures. Why, Madam Speaker? Think of this. As of January 2024, our government's firewall had blocked 75 million malicious threats. It is estimated that the cost of one data breach could have totaled $34.9 million. In addition, we have also engaged major commitments for landfill maintenance, both in the Family Islands and Nassau, and information technology, both of which play vital roles in our operations. This particular category of expenditure saw an increase of nearly $7 million. All of these commitments, which are characterized as consultancy services, total $44 million for the first half of the fiscal year. Just as families and businesses have been facing rising costs, so too has the government. Our rental costs increased by $20.7 million in the first half of the fiscal year compared to the prior period. The increase in this area is driven by a lack of suitable accommodations for our ministries and departments. The Registrar General Department, Freedom of Information Secretariat, and the Department of Public Prosecution all move into new accommodations within this fiscal year. The Immigration Department will consolidate its operations and move into new accommodations before the end of this fiscal period, along with the Public Service Commission and the Ministry of Labor. Living accommodations in the Family Islands are a considerable challenge for our hardworking civil servants, including the teachers, the social workers, and police officers who are stationed at various locations across the Bahamas. In the Family Islands, Airbnb properties has driven rental costs higher. The government must, of course, ensure that these employees have access to housing. So the government has absorbed the higher rental costs to ensure these employees can continue to carry out essential services for the public. Madam Speaker, in the first half of the fiscal year, another significant area of expenditure was the subsistence support provided to water and sewage and the PHA, Public Hospitals Authority, contributing to a $16.6 million increase in subsidies compared to the previous year. It is crucial for us to maintain essential services while pursuing reforms aimed at achieving self-sufficiency for these state-owned enterprises. One of the primary challenges facing water and sewage is the cost of water. Ensuring access to this essential resource for all Bahamians necessitates medium-term subsidies. Additionally, PHA requires a comprehensive reform strategy and will also need medium-term support to sustain essential services. We are optimistic that investing in PHA's physical infrastructure will significantly improve its situation, and we are actively pursuing financing to facilitate this, all of which has been repeatedly mentioned in our budgetary communications. The rise in interest costs were also a factor that contributed to the increase in recurrent spending, which rose $34.3 million year over year. This interest increase was largely due to paying accrued interest on facilities that were replaced by cheaper facilities. The growth in these interest payments has exerted upward pressure on overall recurrent spending. However, a part of our debt strategy has been utilizing more concessional funding that would bring down our cost of borrowing. We anticipate that our cost of borrowing will smooth out in the second half of this fiscal year. The last major spending category that I want to address is compensation of government employees, which grew by $16.9 million. The nominal growth value of wages and salaries has been relatively flat, growing only 0.4% year over year. Over the last 3 years, wages and salaries have been at an average of 11.5% of the recurrent budget and 2.5% of GDP each year. So the increase in compensation for government employees has not been driven by wages and salaries, but other compensation benefits along with an increase in NIB contributions. Madam Speaker, I would like to address a point raised in the opposition's response regarding the deficit number. They claim a deficit figure of nearly $500 million, combining both the current deficit and arrears. However, this statement is misleading. Adding the deficit figure with the arrears figure is not an accurate representation. This is the case especially considering that the government's arrears reported in the mid-year communication were total arrears as of December 31st, 2024, and would largely be settled within this fiscal period. Since this administration took office, the government has not exceeded its budget. I want to repeat that. Since this administration took office, the government has not exceeded its budget. The suggestion we will do so this fiscal year is without evidence, speculative, conjecture, and wishful thinking on their part. We fully intend, Madam Speaker, we fully intend to meet our deficit target for this fiscal year. You know, when we came to office, remember that the deficit was 13.5% of GDP. The deficit was 13.5% of GDP. Right. You all hear that? You all listening? That's what you all left me. A deficit of 13.5% of GDP. How it look now? Last year, we brought it down to 1.3% deficit. And so when you want to talk about deficit, at least look at the history. Look what we have been able to do in 3 years. Wow. Right? And join the IMF. Join them and say, what we did was remarkable. You can take no skin off, you know. Join them. Join the IMF and say, it was remarkable. So I just want to repeat what I said before. Since we took office, we have not exceeded our budget.
No. That's right.
We have not. And so any suggestion that we will not do so this year, I'll borrow a word from my learned friend, is sophistry.
Sophistry, good word. I love
Sophistry. It's nothing but sophistry. Madam Speaker, as we chart a path toward fiscal sustainability, we must adopt a forward-looking strategy that empowers state-owned enterprises and government business enterprises to be able to stand on their own without continuous reliance on the central government. Historically, these entities have relied heavily on government subsidies. However, our administration is committed to changing that dynamic by allowing these organizations to borrow on their own balance sheets and to take greater responsibility for their financial operations. Let me be clear, Madam Speaker. This approach is not about shifting of the burden. It is about empowering institutions to become self-sufficient while ensuring that essential public services continue to be delivered effectively. The guarantees reported in the mid-year budget are not simply debts. They represent targeted investments that will yield tangible benefits for the Bahamian people. Let's consider the University of the Bahamas. The government is seeking parliamentary approval to guarantee $25 million to support UB's pursuit of international accreditation. That's one of the resolutions that we are here to debate. This is an investment in the future of a Bahamian education and Bahamian people. When UB achieves accreditation, the university's global standing will be enhanced, attracting more students and strengthening the quality of education for generations to come. Similarly, Madam Speaker, the Water and Sewage Corporation is seeking $50 million in financing to expand reverse osmosis water production across the Family Islands. This funding is critical to ensuring that every Bahamian, whether in Nassau, Long Island, Crooked Island, Acklands, or Cat Island, has access to clean, potable water. As I mentioned at the outset, investing in our Family Islands has been postponed again and again to the detriment of those communities. We are breaking this pattern of neglect. This investment will bring clean water infrastructure to thousands of Bahamians, improving quality of life and public health. In the healthcare sector, it is proposed that the Public Hospital Authority receive $75 million to support the construction of the Grand Bahama Hospital and renovations at the Princess Margaret Hospital. This funding will allow us to bring the Grand Bahama Hospital to its first phase of completion, delivering modern, high-quality healthcare services to residents of Grand Bahama and easing the burden on our healthcare system. Madam Speaker, it is important to emphasize that the guarantees mentioned in the mid-year budget do not signify that these funds have been received or even fully negotiated. We are reporting these proposed guarantees in the interest of transparency. Every guarantee is subject to rigorous evaluation, including credit risk assessments and eligibility criteria under our new established guarantee policy framework. This process ensures that the government only backs loans that are necessary, affordable, and in the best interest of the Bahamian people. By empowering agencies to borrow independently while holding them accountable for their financial performance, we are building a culture of responsibility and strengthening fiscal discipline across the public sector. Through targeted guarantees, we are building better hospitals, expanding clean water access, and strengthening our institutions. With each step, we are moving the Bahamas forward toward greater self-sufficiency, fiscal sustainability, and a brighter future for all Bahamians. I take this opportunity to address recent discussions surrounding the borrowing resolution tabled in Parliament last week for the authorization of borrowing, and I quote, up to $300 million. It is essential that we all have a clear understanding of what this resolution means and how it aligns with our national goals. First, let me be clear. This borrowing authorization is a precautionary measure. A measure designed to provide us with the flexibility to borrow if market conditions are favorable. It does not mean we will borrow the full $300 million. That's not what it means. The authorization is for up to $300 million. Again, not a commitment to borrow the full amount. This gives us the ability to act in the best interest of the country, borrowing only when it's prudent and when the timing is right under normal market conditions. These funds will not be used to finance the government's deficit operations, nor will they be used to fund any current government projects. These funds are intended for something much more strategic. They are intended to be placed into the National Investment Fund. The purpose of the National Investment Fund is to acquire valuable assets that will help build a prosperous future for all Bahamians. We cannot build a fund for national development and then fail to resource it properly. The fund was established with a clear purpose to acquire assets that contribute to the long-term growth and well-being of our nation. Passing the National Investment Fund Act was an important step in our commitment to securing assets that will benefit all Bahamians for generations to come. To ensure the fund is able to serve its purpose, we must provide it with the resources it needs. What is the point of passing a significant piece of legislation like the National Investment Fund Act if we are not going to equip it with the necessary funds to succeed? This resolution and the borrowing it authorizes is a step toward ensuring that the National Investment Fund is properly capitalized with resources to acquire assets that will serve the best interests of the Bahamian people. Madam Speaker, creating a fairer, more prosperous nation for all Bahamians requires balancing fiscal discipline, short-term relief, and strategic planning. We are clear-eyed about the risks and dangers ahead. We will surely face setbacks along with triumphs. But we can finally be optimistic about our country's direction. We are catalyzing change, lifting up new leaders, and sparking innovation. We are holding fast to our traditional values while building a brighter future. Madam Speaker, I move that the bill for an act to amend the value-added tax be committed and passed. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for East Grand Bahama.
Madam Speaker, I did not want to interrupt the Prime Minister, but the Prime Minister had indicated that you, and I'm using my words, that you did not bust your budget while you were in office, that you've met your deficit on every occasion. I wonder if you could then explain your 12-month report on budgetary performance, 2023-2024, which indicates that you had a budget deficit where you had a target of 131.1, and then on your actual spend or your actual deficit was 186. And this is in the your fiscal summary within that report. And I'm just stating your budget deficit was 131.1, but your actual deficit was 186.7. So you didn't make the deficit during that year. 2023, 2024. So if you can explain that.
Very well. Thank you, Honorable Member. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Honorable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Elizabeth.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is the beginning of the season of Lent. We commence this period today as Ash Wednesday, a time of repentance. In this context, I commend to all of us the scripture, 1 Peter 5 and 6. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time He may exalt you.
Amen.
Madam Speaker, I thank you, and I rise to second the budget, the midterm budget. But before I proceed with my presentation, I wish to publicly acknowledge with tremendous sadness the recent passing of Kimberly Sanders, an accounts clerk at the Ministry of Energy and Transport. Kimberly was a hard-working officer and very accommodating to me as minister, a valued public servant with over 33 years of service. Kimberly was extremely knowledgeable and competent. She processed the ministry's payroll and vendor payments with great efficiency and accuracy. Kimberly loved Christmas, and she was known for decorating her workspace to reflect the holiday season as early as October. She was also instrumental in decorating the ministry for special occasions and assisting with coordinating staff events. Her passing is truly a deep loss for my ministry, and we will certainly miss her. I extend my sincere condolences to her family members, friends, and co-workers at the Treasury Department and the Ministry of Energy and Transport. Madam Speaker, I rise on behalf of the good people of Elizabeth to support the midterm budget statement and to provide an update on matters under my cabinet portfolio of energy and transport. Madam Speaker, the mid-year budget statement had been delivered against the backdrop of prevailing worries about global inflation, the imposition of external tariffs, and real concerns of Bahamian households about the cost of living. As a government, our primary responsibilities are to lead and take action through public policy. However, to successfully lead a nation, a government must first possess conviction, a deep and unwavering certainty or strong belief in improving the lives of its citizens. Make no mistake about it, Madam Speaker, the Davis administration is leading with strong convictions. We are putting the lives and well-being of all Bahamians first.
Right.
Madam Speaker, in delivering the mid-year budget statement, our Prime Minister spoke extensively to several key economic factors, such as the performance of government revenue and expenditure, management of the public debt, efforts to reduce the budget deficit, and the strategy for minimizing inflation. In the interest of time, Madam Speaker, it is not necessary for me to regurgitate those points. However, I wish to speak briefly on inflation. As consumers, we have all experienced high prices because of global inflationary pressures like supply chain issues and high oil prices. However, the Davis administration remains committed to providing a buffer for all Bahamians. And while there remains more work to be done, we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. According to the latest Consumer Price Index report from the Bahamas National Statistical Institute, the monthly inflation rate in November 2024 was the lowest that it has ever been in years. In fact, the rate in November was lower than the rates reported in May and July 2021 periods under the previous administration. Further, Madam Speaker, in the recently released Monthly Economic and Financial Development Report for January 2025 by the Central Bank of the Bahamas, average consumer price inflation, as measured by the All Bahamas Retail Price Index, slowed to 0.6% during the 12 months to November 2024, from 3.4% in the comparative 2023 period. The decrease was driven by a decline of 3% in average prices for transportation services and a moderation of average inflation in the housing, water, gas, electricity, and other fuel sectors of 0.9%. In short, Madam Speaker, there's a significant development and one that we hope to continue through sensible leadership and sound public policies. Madam Speaker, since coming to office, we have taken several public policy decisions that have supported our commitment to tackling the cost of living. Yes. I will highlight 4 key ones. The first one, Madam Speaker, we reduced value-added tax from 12% to 10%. It is important to note that unlike others, we didn't campaign on a promise to lower the VAT rate, and then turn around while in office and increase the VAT rate. Madam Speaker, we are serious in our conviction to reduce the cost of living, and that is why we're reducing VAT to 5% on unprocessed food items. This reduction not only applies to the items on the shelf, but also to imported unprocessed food at the border. This action is what national leadership is all about. Not giving false hope and making empty promises, and it is certainly not saying one thing and doing something completely different as others have done. And yes, Madam Speaker, they will criticize. But how can we listen to the critics when they were the ones who supported the VAT increase in 2017, knowing full well that the unemployment rate in Grand Bahama was over 12%, with almost 4,000 Grand Bahamians being unemployed? Going further, Madam Speaker, I ask, how can we listen to the critics, the ones who coldly voted for VAT increase, when unemployment among females on Grand Bahama, the main breadwinners in the households, was over 15%, almost 6% higher than the national unemployment rate? The answer very simply is no, because they have no credibility on this issue, and they cannot be trusted.
That's right. Not a matter of trust.
Number two, Madam Speaker, we increased the minimum wage from $210
That's right.
to $260 a week.
That's right.
We didn't just talk about it, Madam Speaker. We delivered. But you know, Madam Speaker, there were the critics.
Yes, wrong again.
And what I find so telling is that in the last 2 decades, Madam Speaker, 20 years,
Yes.
the minimum wage was only raised twice. And during both times, it was a PLP administration that did it. This observation is even made more egregious when we recall that there was a push by some members of the other party during the early stages of their term in office to increase the pay of members of parliament, while not making a push to increase minimum wage. In fact, Madam Speaker, one of their members of parliament at the time even went as far as comparing the pay of members of parliament to that of a janitor. The record reflects, Madam Speaker, that while they complained, we gave janitors and others a raise. When we increased the minimum wage in 2022, over 60,000 Bahamian workers were positively impacted,
That's right.
both in the public and private sector. I can pick up the minister. I got more coming because that minister working.
Hallelujah.
3, Madam Speaker, we took steps to end the leasing of taxi plates.
Yes.
For decades, a moratorium on the issuance of taxi plates was maintained.
Right.
While the moratorium was primarily to avoid saturation in the sector, the restriction also reinforced the inability of hundreds of industry participants to become business owners. Under the moratorium, scores of taxi drivers were leasing plates, with some having to pay as much as $1,200 a month.
That's right.
A payment that is comparable to that of a mortgage.
That's right.
The record reflects that it was us who began the process of having dormant and rented taxi plates recalled and reissued to persons already operating in the industry. This policy decision directly impacted the wallets of many taxi drivers, as having their own taxi plate meant not having to pay lease fees, allowing dozens of taxi drivers to save thousands of dollars. And the fourth one, Madam Speaker, we successfully implemented the equity rate adjustment, better known as ERA at Bahamas Power and Light. Through the ERA, the base rate tariff for the first 0 to 200 kilowatt hours has been reduced to 0. This adjustment, Madam Speaker, has created more equitable balance in the tariff structure, as households no longer subsidize those large commercial consumers. But as they say, Madam Speaker, the proof is in the pudding. BPL has approximately 94,500 residential customers. According to the latest analysis provided by BPL, approximately 9,636 households received electricity bills between $5 to $19.99 in January 2025. Going further, Madam Speaker, approximately 41,014 households received bills between $20 to $99.99. Approximately 8,283 households received bills between $100 to $124.99. Madam Speaker, this means that approximately 58,933 households, or 62% of residential customers, receive bills under $125 during the month of January. Now we know that energy consumption is traditionally less in the winter months, and there are other variables to consider, such as the fuel charge. However, we cannot deny or ignore the impact of the ERA. It is also worth mentioning that lower electricity bills also means less funds paid in VAT and more money in the wallets of Bahamians. I wish to note, Madam Speaker, that I only highlighted 4 public policy decisions by this administration that have directly impacted the wallets and kitchen tables of Bahamians. There are many others, and I'm certain that my colleagues will speak to those in their presentations. I now turn to matters specifically under my ministry, starting with transport. The agencies that comprise transport include Road Traffic, Port Authority, Bahamas Maritime Authority, Post Office, Meteorology Department, Aircraft Accident Investigation, and Mailboat Division. Every day, the leadership and staff in the transport section consistently perform and execute their duties. I know that every day is not easy, but I sincerely acknowledge the tremendous work that they do, and I thank them for their commitment. I sincerely appreciate all of their efforts. In coming to the public sector from the private sector, I can attest that the salary scale is much lower and does not adequately compensate many hardworking public servants. However, one of the approaches that we have taken as an administration, and I'm very pleased about, is the confirmation of workers throughout my ministry as permanent and pensionable, and the granting of overdue and well-deserved promotions. Now, there remains more work to be done. However, I wish to publicly acknowledge the hard work of the Minister of Labor and the Public Service, Minister Pierre Glover-Roll, and the hard-working human resources teams throughout the ministry for the heavy lifting that they have done to make permanent and pensionable those who were concerned on contract and to provide the promotions that they were so desperately needing and waiting on. Madam Speaker, with respect to the Road Traffic Department, it is important to note that the department is very serious about carrying out the provisions of the Road Traffic Act and related legislation. However, the department is also considered a key revenue collection agency for the government, as the income generated is used to fund public projects and the government's operations. Between July 2024 and January 2025, the department has collected over $24 million, which is higher than last year's figure. While revenue collection is critical for the Road Traffic Department, we also recognize the need to enhance the ease of doing business with the department. Hence, several actions have been taken. In November, we commissioned an office space for the Road Traffic Department in Cat Island. Further, it is expected that other offices will be commissioned, one in eastern New Providence and others throughout our family islands. where there's a clear need and demand based on vehicle population. Another action we've taken was to implement road traffic Saturdays on New Providence to make it easier for working professionals to engage with the Road Traffic Department. Through this initiative, the main office of the department will open to the public on the last Saturday of every month, following the government pay. Madam Speaker, the government recognizes that road safety must be a key priority for the Road Traffic Department. In 2024, more than 60 traffic fatalities were recorded, with young Bahamians under the age of 45 as the leading casualty demographic. So far for 2025, 14 traffic fatalities have been reported, with the majority occurring on the island of New Providence, and just yesterday, our nation recorded 2 of those traffic fatalities. Already, my ministry and the Road Traffic Department have taken concrete steps to address this serious issue. We've installed road safety awareness billboards throughout New Providence and the Family Islands, with more to come. We've released several video messages on road safety and increased our engagement with schools, especially high schools, on road safety. Now, we know that the government cannot do it alone. And so the private sector, especially the Bahama Resort Foundation, have strongly supported my ministry's efforts to improve road safety awareness. Recently, through a generous donation valued at over $200,000 from the foundation, pedestrian crossings have been improved around 6 schools in New Providence. And I'm pleased to share that the ministry and the Bahama Resort Foundation will not only continue our partnership, but also expand the project to include the installation of radar warning speed signs. I strongly, Madam Speaker, I strongly urge all Bahamians to drive within the speed limit and to wear a seatbelt. Do not drink and drive. And please adhere to the speed limit of 15 miles per hour in school zones. Madam Speaker, quite alarmingly, we have observed too many drivers speeding around our schools during school hours. Just this week, a driver contacted my ministry to report that a young student on her way to Yellow Elder Primary School was almost hit by a speeding car while on the pedestrian crossing. As drivers, we must do better. Please slow down. I repeat, as drivers, please slow down. Madam Speaker, also included in this year's mid-year budget statement is the Road Traffic Amendment Bill 2025. This amendment seeks to remove the birth month requirement for auto insurance coverage. The adjustment is necessary to avoid additional charges that consumers might face from insurance companies. To be clear, the government is keen to avoid placing financial hardship on Bahamians while we fight to stop uninsured vehicles from being on our streets. According to the Royal Bahamas Police Force, a considerable number of road traffic accidents involved uninsured vehicles. Not only that, Madam Speaker, during the first 8 months of 2024, I'm advised that over 1,600 tickets were issued for uninsured vehicles on the streets of New Providence alone. All stakeholders, the Ministry of Energy and Transport, Road Traffic Department, and the Insurance Commission of the Bahamas, Insurance Association, and Traffic Division of the Royal Bahamas Police Force are working together to tackle the issue of uninsured vehicles on our streets. And I'm advised that plans to deepen collaboration and lawfully share information are being developed. In short, Madam Speaker, if your vehicle is uninsured, please keep it off the road. Madam Speaker, the Port Department is also an important agency under my ministry. There are several ongoing projects that I wish to speak to. Members would recall that the government, through the Port Department, engaged DigiSoft, a Bahamian company, with Bahamian principals to create a full online platform. Users of the online platform will benefit and be able to easily register and manage dock spaces, harbors, and associated fees, request tugboat services, access port notices, and stay updated on security alerts, complete online registration and renewal of private boats and yachts, complete digital applications for commercial vessels, submit online applications and receive approval from foreign vessel operators, request digital scheduling and completion of vessel inspections with automated reminders, immediate online payments for all port-related fees, penalties, or outstanding fines, submit real-time requests for tugboat assistance, improving port efficiency and vessel safety, and have access to a dedicated help desk system to assist users with inquiries, troubleshooting, and service-related questions. Earlier this week, a full demonstration of the platform was held at the ministry. I'm advised that a full rollout of the system and public education campaign will take place by June 2025. The online solution allows customers to create their own profile on the website and builds on previous efforts made to bring all administrative operations of the Port Department into the 21st century. The payment system will also allow users to make their fee payment directly online to the Treasury Department through DigiPay. The system can also print financial reports for the Ministry of Finance. This engagement will assist with enforcement efforts, compliance, consistent collection of revenue, the public's ease of accessibility to the department, and overall convenience. Madam Speaker, the Port's engagement with Adolpha Maritime Group commenced in 2024 and is ongoing. Adolpha is contracted with the responsibility for maintaining all navigational aids across the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. This task includes the repair and maintenance of over 200 navigational aids. This engagement is critical to maritime safety in the Bahamas, per the International Maritime Organization's requirement under the Safety at Law of the Sea Convention to avoid marine incidents due to ineffective aids to investigation. Reports are submitted to the Port Department on a consistent basis with photographs relaying the status updates of navigational aids throughout the country and repair and maintenance of works conducted. In the coming weeks, significant works are expected to be undertaken with respect to navigational aids in Marsh Harbor, Abaco. And speaking of Abaco, Madam Speaker, we understand the significance of the Marsh Harbor port to the island. Residents and businesses, I can advise that a Bahamian company was selected by our U.S. counterparts to restore the transshipment port. The upgrades to the port will include more lighting, provisions of stormwater drainage, placement of an administrative and security building, CCTV, connections to backup generators, power connection to new buildings, paving, and a suitable perimeter fence. I expect to be able to provide a more concrete update before the end of April. Madam Speaker. Okay. Madam Speaker, I now move to the Bahamas Maritime Authority. This year marks 30 years since the establishment. The authority continues to fulfill its mission of effectively administrating the registration and regulation of Bahamian flagged ships and maintaining our maritime capability through the adoption, implementation, and enforcement of international requirements and best practices. The Bahamas Ship Owners Association Board met in New Providence. The last time the board met in the Bahamas was some 14 years ago. Over the years, the association has significantly supported national capacity building through assistance provided to the Bahamas Maritime Cadet Corps and the LJM Maritime Academy. The Bahamas has served on the IMO Council for Category C from 1991 to 95, and from 99 to present, and the Council, as the executive organ of the IMO, supervises the work and budget estimates of the organization. We will once again resume our candidacy and our campaign for candidacy. Madam Speaker, in the interest of time, I want to make sure I cover in detail the benefits or the good work under the Ministry of Energy's portfolio. The ministry is charged with relations with BPL. As the government is the only shareholder of BPL, there's a moral obligation to ensure that electricity is affordable and provided in a reliable manner. I believe that we can all agree that BPL is not in the best position that we would like it to be. However, BPL is blessed with hundreds of hardworking men and women who show up and do their best every single day. For example, BPL has customer service representatives who will go above and beyond in providing service, and technical officers or engineers who make this possible, make the impossible possible. Imagine having to make parts because the generators or engines are so old that the parts for them are no longer being created. For many engineers, especially those in the Family Islands, this is their reality, and they do so without seeking reward or recognition. Recently, I participated in a panel discussion at the Georgia Institute of Technology, and when I shared our energy reform plans, and that some of our engineers at BPL were working with transformers from 40 and 50 years ago, the engineering students were not only shocked, but very impressed by the skill of our engineers at BPL, to the fact that they still have those transformers working and providing power. Yes. We appreciate the hard work that BPL workers put in, and I can share that the executive leadership of BPL has assessed employee benefits, and I'm advised that an announcement from the CEO is forthcoming on a positive health and wellness benefit update for employees. Madam Speaker, as an update to several ongoing projects, in October 2024, BPL and the Ministry of Energy and Transport launched the Merry and Bright Turn On Your Lights Holiday Reconnection Program. The purpose of the initiative was to allow disconnected Bahamian households the opportunity to get reconnected to the grid by paying as little as 10% of their outstanding balances and having flexible repayment terms for the remaining balance. The program ran from the 1st of November 2024 to the 31st of January 2025. I can share that approximately 2,811 households enrolled in the program, with 2,052 from New Providence and 759 from the Family Islands. I encourage all households enrolled in the program to manage and carefully monitor their energy use. Our goal was to ensure that thousands of Bahamians who would have otherwise been without power also enjoyed the blessing of a merry and bright Christmas, and for that, we are thankful and grateful. We recognize, Madam Speaker, and I may ask for a few more minutes because I just want to cover this part about Eleuthera, but we recognize that Eleuthera's electricity challenges are deep. Years, Madam Speaker, years of overlooking maintenance and increasing demand from economic growth have created a crisis of enormous propensity. However, we are working quickly to resolve the problem. And in solidarity with Eleuthera, I'm wearing my pin. Yes. As you can see, it's a pineapple. But to ensure that we afford Eleutherans and its residents a better supply of electricity, we formed at BPL the Eleuthera Grid Revitalization Project Team. This team is comprised of dedicated workforce from Eleuthera, Nassau, and roving teams to ensure that the work to improve Eleuthera's grid is completely and quickly resolved. Ongoing work include upgrades to feeder transformer replacements and pole reinforcements. As a more detailed update, the Rock Sound feeder upgrade is underway, and once completed, it will enhance voltage stability and reduce power outages. Further, the transformer replacement in Harbor Island and the replacement of poles in Tarpon Bay will assist in meeting the growing energy demand and enhance reliability for residents and businesses. We also expect that the retrofitting of streetlights in Wims's Bight, Palmetto Point, and Green Castle will be completed by June 2025. All this work, Madam Speaker, is not expected to be completed without some minor disruptions to the residents and businesses on Eleuthera. We sincerely apologize for the inconvenience and thank all Eleutherans for their patience. I wish to also note, Madam Speaker, that BPL's communication team have been working diligently to respond to concerns and queries raised by residents on Eleuthera. I acknowledge their hard work and sincerely thank them for all that they do. Madam Speaker, with respect to utility-scale renewable energy projects for New Providence and the Family Islands, I can advise that power purchase agreements, better known as PPAs, between BPL and IPPs are in the final stages of completion, and I'm advised that the first PPA is expected to be signed by the end of this month. With respect to utility-scale LNG generation, I can advise that we are closer than ever before, and the negotiations on those PPAs are also near completion, with the agreement expected to be signed at the end of March, with first gas to be in country and operating through our generators by August 2025 this year. Madam Speaker, I can also confirm that the partnership between Island Grid and BPL is progressing, and that work on advancing and governing the operation framework are continuing. The Transitional Committee, which is comprised of HR representatives from BPL and both unions, have made several recommendations that are being considered, and I will be able to provide more details in short order. Our work, Madam Speaker, to transform our energy sector will not be complete without revision to our national energy policy. And I can share with this House that the second review of the draft to the policy has been completed, and that in short order, we expect to hold stakeholder engagement sessions. These sessions are important as we believe that as much players as possible in the energy ecosystem should provide feedback. This approach is to ensure that the national energy policy is not only realistic, but includes measurable goals. Madam Speaker, as I prepare to take my seat, I once again extend my gratitude to the people of Elizabeth for the opportunity to represent them in this House. I trust that they not only feel, but know without a shadow of a doubt that I will always represent their best interests and continue to work to lower their cost of living. I also wish to end, Madam Speaker, by boldly declaring that we at the Ministry of Energy and Transport are focused on positively impacting businesses, the economy, and the society at large. This is our mission and objective. Our journey to improve the energy and transport sectors is well underway, and we are seeing results. To the staff members throughout the Ministry of Energy and Transport and to those at BPL, I thank you once again for that. You are doing an excellent job, and I know that you will continue to do so on behalf of the Bahamian people. I second this mid-year budget. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a second time and committed. A bill for an act to amend the Value Added Tax Act. As many, the chair recognizes the Honourable Member for East Grand Bahama.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I watched in horror as a car pulled up behind another, and a group of what appeared to be young men jumped out, guns in hand, unleashing a hail of bullets into the vehicle. I saw a young child as she scrambled out of the same car, desperate to escape the carnage. And then I witnessed the unthinkable. The young man, barely clinging to life, forced out of the car and executed in cold blood right in front of his daughter. Madam Speaker, this is no movie, no distant war zone, this is the Bahamas. This has become our reality, and every Bahamian ought to be outraged. We are living in some of the most serious times our nation has ever seen. Sometimes it appears that our government is paralyzed. How many more children must be traumatized? How many more families must be shattered before we wake up? Madam Speaker, I rise today not merely as a member of Parliament, but as a voice of every struggling resident in the East Grand Bahama constituency. I speak for Floyd in McLeanstown, for Buysel in Pelican Point, for Preston in Sweden, in Seahorse Village, Melbourne in Chesapeake, and every hard-working business owner suffocating under the weight of the economic neglect. I speak for every victim of crime who cries for justice have gone unanswered. And we all on this side, we speak for every mother who wakes up each morning burdened by the crushing reality of this government's failures. We on this side stand for the families who have experienced loss due to broken promises, for the communities left to fend for themselves in the face of rising violence. We on this side, we speak for every young dreamer whose aspiration has been dimmed by a government that has forsaken them. Madam Speaker, the government's 2024-2025 mid-year budget review was nothing more, in my view, than a carefully orchestrated illusion designed to mask the harsh reality of struggle, suffering, and stagnation. While the government boasts of progress, families are drowning under the weight of skyrocketing costs, and crime continues to spiral. Madam Speaker, the government would have us believe that the government's fiscal hole is merely the result of front-loading capital spending. But the facts tell a different story. This administration has overspent across recurrent expenditures with no clear strategy to meet its deficit targets. As I recall, this year ought to have been a year we actually arrived at a surplus. But this year, the government adjusted the surplus to a deficit. According to the mid-year budget communication, recurrent spending ballooned by $192.3 million year over year. At the same time, capital spending surged by $86 million. Now let's talk about the numbers that are not, in my view, adequately explained. The deficit stands at nearly $400 million, 5 times the full year deficit target. Madam Speaker, the math, as they say, is not mathing. And how is this actually possible at the same time you have record revenues? How does the government plan to plug this massive shortfall? Where is the plan to rein in the reckless spending? While Bahamians are asked to control their spending, Bahamians are being asked to pay increase in fees, increase in taxes, and they struggle to afford basic necessities. This administration has wasted taxpayers' dollars. In tourism, Madam Speaker, the government's deafening silence in the mid-year review on the alarming decline in stopover tourism cannot just be an oversight. The central bank's most recent quarterly economic review, which is December of 2024, lays bare a grim reality. While the total foreign arrivals increased by 15.9%, this so-called growth is propped up almost entirely by a surge in cruise visitors, a lower spending segment. But meanwhile, the true backbone of our tourism industry, the high-value stopover tourists, plummeted by 3.9% to just 400,000 passengers in the fourth quarter of 2024. Madam Speaker, let me also make this point a little bit clearer. Yes, we increased overall in tourists, but the increase was in cruise passengers, lower spending cruise passengers. But what was alarming was that we actually decreased by 3.9% in stopover passengers. This should be having red flags all over the country if we are decreasing with stopover passengers. Even more damning, Madam Speaker, air arrivals in New Providence. Air arrivals in New Providence fell by 5%. And the Family Islands saw a 1.8% drop. Madam Speaker, that means the cruise passengers are increasing, but stopover passengers are actually decreasing. Where is the urgency? While this administration pats itself on the back for raising cruise numbers, they seem to ignore the catastrophic effect of losing high-spending visitors who drive hotel occupancy, who fuel the restaurant industry and keep Bahamian businesses alive. This government continues to hide behind the inflated cruise figures, while air arrivals, a direct indicator of economic strength, wither before our eyes. Madam Speaker, for 2 years, we have stood in this very place, calling on the government to remove VAT from essential food items to combat the cost of living crisis. For 2 years, we all on this side have stood up in this place demanding, asking that VAT be adjusted on food. So much so to the point where we have been taunted. You bringing up bread basket items again? You're bringing up bread basket items again. For 2 years, we have been saying to the government, you need to make the adjustment to deal with the cost of living crisis. Yet they refuse to listen. 2 years ago, we warned the rising cost, food, pushing Bahamian families to the brink. And instead of acting decisively, this government ignored the suffering and chose to continue taxing the poor on the most basic necessities. Now, at the time families have been struggling to put food on their table for years, they pat themselves on the back because they finally decided to reduce VAT on food, but only to 5%. That is not enough. That is not enough. The people of this country, needed zero VAT on food. They needed zero VAT on food 2 years ago. We told you 2 years ago to do and to follow the examples of other countries. We told them to look at Portugal. We told them to look at Spain. to look at Germany and Trinidad and Tobago.
What had happened?
Instead, this administration has spent those years,
Members,
Madam Speaker, instead, this administration has spent those years taxing the people and did nothing to bring down the cost of food in this country. Madam Speaker,
members, there's a member on the floor.
if this government had acted when we first raised this issue 2 years ago,
What had happened?
Bahamians would have already seen relief.
I wanted relief 2022.
While you are patting yourselves on the back, boasting about half measures and empty gestures, I ask you, what possible justification could you have for keeping VAT on medication? What possible justification could you have for keeping VAT on medication? What possible excuse could you offer to the sick, to the elderly, the most vulnerable in our society, who are struggling just to afford their medication? What possible justification? You already have it for food. What possible justification could you keep it on medication? On baby products? On feminine products? And yet this administration chose to reinstate the burden, forcing the sick to pay more, forcing struggling parents to pay more. Madam Speaker, the government also should be taking a proactive approach to any potential negative effects we may face as a result of any possible increased tariffs in the United States. As a country heavily reliant on imports, the Bahamas sources a significant portion of goods including food, electronics, construction materials, and household items, either directly from China or indirectly through the United States. Higher tariffs will drive up the cost for U.S. importers, who will inevitably pass this increase down the supply chain, making everyday necessities even more expensive for Bahamians, who are already struggling with inflation. Madam Speaker, the Davis administration owes the Bahamian people an explanation. Why has it seemingly abandoned its own borrowing plan for the 2024-2025 fiscal year, which just months ago they published? This is their plan. This is what they told the Bahamian public they would do. That very report stated that new borrowings for the fiscal year would be limited to $69.8 million, matching the projected deficit. Yet now, the government is seeking an additional $300 million to borrow. If, as the Prime Minister claims, the government is on track to meet the $70 million deficit target, then there should not be a need for this massive new loan. But, Madam Speaker,
That's justification?
here is an even more pressing question.
Let's hear it.
And an even more pressing question remains.
Let's hear it.
Remember the $500 million IDB back loan? Remember that $500 million IDB back loan that was just put in place last year?
What happened to that?
The one that was not supposed to be for rollover debt?
Well,
The one that was not granted parliamentary approval?
tell us about it.
Why is the government not using the $500 million it received last year? The government categorically stated that this loan was not to be used for debt repayment. So why or where is that money? The Ministry of Finance said in their statement, this is the Ministry of Finance statement that I'm quoting. They said $500 million inter-IDB loan, guarantee-backed loan, will, and I quote, support some of the necessary infrastructure, education, and social welfare needs. Well, if that was the case, then why couldn't they put the monies from the $500 million loan inside the infrastructure fund? Madam Speaker, the Bahamian people deserve better than a government that operates with reckless disregard of the fiscal discipline. This administration has proven time and time again that they are more focused on luxury travel and have failed to address the real struggles of Bahamian people. Madam Speaker, the numbers tell a story of not just financial indiscipline, but it is a betrayal of the public trust. The office of the Prime Minister was allocated, right inside here you'll see it, allocated $569,000 for travel for the entire year. They put that figure in here. None of us on this side put that figure in here. That's what they did. They put that they would spend $569,721. But just in 6 months, they blew nearly $2.25 million and almost 400% overspend. How does this government justify the excessive spending while Bahamians are crushed by the high cost of living? The entire government spent $10 million in just 6 months, which is 80% of the full year's travel. Now, instead of cutting back or being accountable, they have the audacity to increase the travel and subsistence budget by another $3.6 million. But, Madam Speaker, then there is the unexplained spending on COP 29 in Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan. In that place.
Yeah, that place.
In that place.
That place. Yeah, they know the name.
I think they've spent enough time there to know the name quite well. The government reallocated in their midterm budget $330,000 for this trip. $330,000 for this trip.
That place.
But somehow, over $800,000 from the budget reserve, money that is meant for unforeseen national emergencies, was also used and labeled as climate change expenses. What exactly is a climate change expense? At an international summit. Are Bahamians supposed to believe that over $1.1 million was spent just on one trip? Madam Speaker, are Bahamians supposed to believe that over $1.1 million was spent on just one trip? Madam Speaker, I want to quickly just read. This is from the Guardian's editorial. Egregious travel spending. And I adopt this and I'll table it. If apologists can say what they want, but the Davis administration extravagant spending on travel is nothing short of egregious. What has occurred is that at the start of this fiscal year, and here's the point. At the start of the fiscal year, the government presented one figure for travel in the budget. But within weeks, funds were reallocated to sufficiently or to significantly increase the travel budget. They presented a budget, weeks later, they didn't change it. This is deliberately misleading. They put one figure in the budget for optics, fully aware that they plan to spend far more. This lack of transparency is a slap in the face to Bahamian people who are footing the bill for these lavish excursions. Madam Speaker, The Davis administration handling Grand Bahama redevelopment is nothing short of a disgrace. Marked by broken promises, secrecy, and a complete disregard for the people who call this island home. Madam Speaker, the airport. There seems to be a sudden shift from the public-private partnership for the Grand Bahama International Airport to an all-encompassing mystery deal lumped together with the long-stalled Grand Lucayan sale. What has happened to the $200 million that was supposed to be secured for the Grand Bahama International Airport? Can we please get an update as to what's happening with the Grand Bahama Airport? Madam Speaker.
Sit down if you got the money.
By the way, what's happening, Madam Speaker, what's happening with the property in West End? We are hearing some very disturbing news about what's happening at the hotel property in West End. What's happening with that property? We are hearing news, or we are hearing reports, which we hope are not true, about there is going to be a closure or some sort of issue happening at, can we please get what is happening with respect to that hotel? Even more relevant is what's happening, Madam Speaker, with the touted Afro-Caribbean marketplace. Madam Speaker, just in today's paper, the members from the Grand Bahama Port Authority, they asked the question, is there a feasibility study? Is there a financial plan to determine the feasibility? Officials at the GBPA says they don't believe one exists. That's what they say in their.
That's what they say. They fall in.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Pine Ridge.
Clarification.
So that's what you work for. Yeah, people didn't want you to talk.
Point of clarification.
Yeah, remember the
I will address this when I speak later, but I want to put on the record that communications have been had with the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and they know for a fact that we would have given them what they needed in order to proceed. So we're going to address that later, but to clarify all of that, the Port Authority knows full well why it hasn't closed yet. And it's the Port Authority's fault. Has nothing to do with the government. The government is prepared. The government is ready to go. The government has it budgeted for. And it is the Grand Bahama Port Authority, not the government of the Bahamas.
Thank you, honourable member. East Grand Bahama, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, is there a feasibility study? Is there a feasibility study?
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Pine Ridge.
In June of last year, the government of the Bahamas signed a project preparation facility for the development of this Afro-Caribbean marketplace. The project preparation facility deals with the feasibility study, the architectural renderings, and all of that. Right now, the issue is the acquisition of the land, which the Port Authority is holding up on, because since 2006, the bazaar owners and the member from Kalani, we spoke about this the other day, the land owners owe the Port Authority for some maintenance charges. I would No, I would be aware of that, right? And so this is a $1.5 million amount that the bazaar owners owe that should have been written off. This is almost 20 years. And it would have been written off, and the Port Authority indicated that they were prepared to write that off so that development can happen. So actually, this has nothing to do with the government. It has everything to do with the Port Authority, who is right now holding on because of other matters. But at the end of the day, this will be done because the government is now working on this $1.5 million that they say is owed. But the Grand Bahama Port Authority, who is supposed to be the city managers, the developers of the cities, they are the ones who are holding up the progress in their own city, because the government of the Bahamas doesn't really need to be doing this in the city of Freeport. We are fixing a mess that no other government fixed, and that the Port Authority, who are the city managers, did not fix. That's why I can tell you. That's why I can tell you that these are all outstanding fees that the Port Authority could let go, because at the end of the day, the Port Authority is going to benefit from the licensees in this marketplace. We are fixing their problem.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
I don't know what my time is.
None.
I saw the last I saw that I was at. I had spent 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Yeah, 23. Okay, very well. I will move on. The Bahamian housing crisis has spiraled out of control, Madam Speaker. Yet the government has failed to deliver real solutions for middle-class families. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I don't know, Madam Speaker, but I think I may be doing a good job. I am doing a good job, Madam Speaker. I'm doing a good job, Madam Speaker. I am on the right track, Madam Speaker. I'm on the right track.
The chair. Members. The chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Carmichael.
Not one home was built. Not one. About housing crisis, you better skip that paragraph. Skip that paragraph.
Let me get this.
Housing crisis.
Members.
What y'all dealing with?
Madam Speaker.
They don't have nothing to talk about. They don't have nothing to talk about. They grasp
Honourable Members.
Madam Speaker. You know, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. Today, we start the season of Lent.
Yeah, we start.
And honestly, Madam Speaker, on a point of order, it behooves me how the Honourable Member for East Grand Bahama will talk about the housing crisis and a crisis. They have no more authority, Madam Speaker. This ain't not us. They ain't built no house. They changed in the first time in the history of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. They changed the policy. I said they ain't building no house. They have no moral authority to talk to us whatsoever, Madam Speaker. None.
Madam Speaker, the IMF has warned of a unsustainable housing crisis, reporting that the real estate and rental prices jumped 14% over the past decade, while wages barely move. Bahamians are being pushed further and further away from ever owning a home. But, Madam Speaker, they can really get excited about this one. Where is the Ministry of Housing? Where is the promised $80 million housing initiative? Over a year ago, the government boasted about plans to build affordable homes, but to this day, they have failed to provide an update on how much of the $20 million has been spent, and how many homes has the $20 million gone to? Madam Speaker,
Release that report, Bell.
Madam Speaker, on the,
Release the report.
tell us, Madam Speaker, they came to the House of Assembly and they spoke boldly. They spoke boldly about the $20 million loan initiative.
Yes.
They said that this was going to go towards housing for middle to low income.
Yes.
We actually support that, going to housing, we actually support the housing initiative. But tell us, how much of the 20 million was spent on those houses?
Yes.
Tell us how many houses were built
Yes.
based on the 20 million.
Yes. Yes.
You know, a minute ago, Madam Speaker, when I raised the housing issue, everybody jumped up to defend this. Everybody wondered how in the world I could speak about this. Everybody wondered what moral authority we had to speak upon this. But, Madam Speaker, when we asked the question, how many houses were built with this $20 million? Mum's the word, Madam Speaker. Mum's the word. Madam Speaker, we note.
Why did you think there was
We note the Road Traffic Act.
What did you see? What caused you to do the report?
We note that the Road Traffic Act made an about face.
Bring the report.
The My Gateway platform stands as a powerful solution to modernize government services and enhance efficiency and protect against fraud. Yet the Davis administration has failed to fully harness its potential. This platform has already streamlined processes such as passport renewals, driver's license applications. Its capabilities could go much further. By integrating real-time digital tracking of insurance policies, for example, we could revolutionize the enforcement of traffic laws, ensuring an immediate verification. So we believe that My Gateway can be used as a solution. Madam Speaker, I began, Madam Speaker, with a story of tragedy. But I will end this message with a message of hope. Despite our challenges, election coming. Despite the struggles we face, election is coming. The Bahamas, we believe, has limitless potential. We believe the Bahamas has limitless courage and unwavering strength. We are a people, Madam Speaker, who rise. We are a people who endure. And yes, we fight, but we fight for a better tomorrow. That's why we on this side are fighting. That's why we on this side are talking. That's why we on this side are standing up, because we are standing up for a better tomorrow. This is all of our homes, Madam Speaker. This is all of our homes. And Madam Speaker, the Bahamas is worth fighting for. The Bahamas is still worth fighting for. Madam Speaker, we are stronger than our setbacks. We are greater than our divisions. And we are capable of achieving more than we have ever imagined. Madam Speaker, the best days of the Bahamas are still ahead of us. And so, Madam Speaker, we await this government's, like thousands of millions. In fact, just
Just this morning, coming off the plane, somebody said to me, boy, I can't wait until they call general election. I say, boy, I can't wait either.
Stop it.
I say, I can't wait either. But, Madam Speaker, there is hope with the Free National Movement. There is hope with the Free National Movement, Madam Speaker. There is hope under the leadership of Michael Pintard, the Member of Parliament for Marco City, Madam Speaker. There is hope for this country under the Free National Movement, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
Madam Speaker, feeling good today. I give you an extra minute for that election pitch. As many, the chair recognizes the honorable member for
Madam
Garden Hill.
Speaker, as I stand to my feet during this holy time, following East Grand Bahama, reminds me to repeat the words of a former Prime Minister. I will yield not to temptation. The devil is a liar.
Rebuke the devil.
He is a stranger. He is a stranger to the truth.
One more time, Garden Hills. One more time.
No, he got to catch that on tape. Madam Speaker, I'm deeply honored and humbled to have been chosen and entrusted with the responsibility for representing the esteemed people of the great constituency of Garden Hills. Yes. Standing in this historic place as their duly elected representative is both a privilege and a solemn duty, one that I embrace with immense gratitude and unwavering resolve. I remain ever mindful of the weight of this calling and give all glory to God, seeking his continual wisdom and guidance in the service of the people and the governance of our beloved Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Madam Speaker, this mid-year 24-25 budget is the government's continued commitment to changing the status quo and to improve the lives of all Bahamians. With the government taking this historic approach, improves the lives of all Bahamians, I am pleased to announce that the equitable development approach in Garden Hills constituency has fostered community spirit that creates a sense of belonging, a sense of place, and a sense of self-worth. These new integrated methods further promotes a strong economic and quality of life for all of the residents. Building local communities is the only way to ensure that everyone prospers together. In Garden Hills, we are able to achieve these goals through our many programs like the Garden Hills Medical Healthcare Plan, which is partnership with LAMP and the Doctors Hospital, an affordable healthcare plan that's reduced the out-of-pocket cost for patient and inpatient care service, offers free preventative and wellness care benefits, and provides supplement to existing coverage and affordable primary coverage for the uninsured. Another valuable initiative is the Burial Society program designed to ease the financial burden associated with the loss of loved ones. This program has grown in popularity and continues to expand, providing essential support to residents in need. I encourage individuals to enroll and take advantage of this financial assistance to help manage the costs associated with funerals. Madam Speaker, I use this time to express heartfelt condolences to the family of Liana Davis, Daisy Knowles, and Pedro Milo Seymour, and all others in the Garden Hills constituency who would have lost loved ones in recent weeks. May their soul rest in peace. Madam Speaker, the official launch of the Garden Hills Investment Plan, along with our annual year-end review, will take place on March 18 at 7 p.m. at the S.E. McFerguson Junior High School. I encourage all interested individuals who wish to sign up and be a part of this investment plan to stay informed by following our social media pages for updates leading up to the meeting, or by contacting the office at 356-3670. Madam Speaker, this government has boldly reshaped the status quo, proving that economic growth and responsible debt management can go hand in hand. Through prudent financial decisions, we have not only advanced national development, but also strengthened the economy, ensuring a future of stability and prosperity for Bahamian people. This is proven in the reduction of our debt to GDP that we received in 2021, which was at 100%, to now 79% reduction. Madam Speaker, we are moving in the right direction. Financial sustainability is not just a goal, it is a commitment, and this administration has implemented a sound strategic plan that is transforming lives, restoring trust, and reinforcing confidence in our nation's economic future. Under the safe leadership of Prime Minister Davis, this administration operates with precision, foresight, and unwavering commitment, making calculated investments that drive progress and yield tangible, lasting benefits for all Bahamians. Madam Speaker, during the past 6 months, my ministry has invested some $5.7 million in the overall well-being and development and empowerment of our youth through the youth, sports, and culture programs. Madam Speaker, the Division of Youth has invested some $780,000 out of that $5.7 million from July 2024 up to now in the furtherance of youth development across this country. Madam Speaker, I do not believe that we can approach youth development today with yesterday's strategies. This is why, Madam Speaker, this administration has continued to make significant waves and deliver more for our young people with a new and innovative approach. When I came to office, I was met with hundreds of applications from all over the country for grant funding for young entrepreneurs through the Be Inspired program. Madam Speaker, the applications went unprocessed, and the only thing that was delivered was 4 years of disappointment to our young people. Since we took office, we have processed more applications and funded more young entrepreneurs and small businesses in the history of the Be Inspired by providing hundreds of thousands of dollars to our young entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Action.
May the work I've done speak for me.
Yes.
We have gone even further, Madam Speaker, to partner with the National Commission for Persons with Disability to provide funding to young entrepreneurs with disabilities, the first time in the history of this program. Madam Speaker, we said in our blueprint that we would make the National Youth Parliament more meaningful, and that is what we did. And I quote from the blueprint: "Make Youth Parliament more meaningful with an issues facing youth of our nation agenda." And it continues: "Resolutions passed by the Youth Parliament will be considered in the formulation of public policy." End quote. Madam Speaker, for the first time in the history making again, we have a sitting National Youth Parliament with youth parliamentarians serving a 2-year term, giving their views and suggestions to the government and carrying out youth-led initiatives, which was successfully launched in November of 2024. That also includes the 16 sitting senators. Madam Speaker, they like talk but travel, but we must prepare the youth for the future. For 4 years, there were no national youth ambassadors, and young Bahamians missed out on countless opportunities. This administration not only reintroduced the National Youth Ambassadors Program, but also expanded to ensure that more opportunities are provided for young people to represent this country. Madam Speaker, 15 youth ambassadors having been installed in October of 2024 to serve locally and globally, serving organizations such as the United Nations, CARICOM, and Commonwealth. Madam Speaker, these young people must travel. We must prepare to have a bright future in this country. Madam Speaker, I am pleased to report that I have finally received the 2025 through 2035 draft of the National Youth Policy, which will soon be available for the public to review. This policy is about taking a strategic approach to doing more for our young people. More access, more opportunities, more support, better service, better programs, and a better youth sector in the Bahamas. Through its youth policy, we will meet our international obligations and strengthen our capacity to ensure the growth and development of our youth as agents of positive change. Madam Speaker, I now turn my attention to the National Youth Month celebrations, where we hosted marquee celebrations throughout the country, ranging from National Youth Awards in the capital, Grand Bahama, Eleuthera, Andros, Long Island, San Salvador, and Cat Island, to name a few. Madam Speaker, as I close this segment of our nation's future, our youth, it gives me tremendous pleasure to now highlight Youth Ambassador Cashay Hanna, who captured the Youth Award in Education, the Youth Award in Leadership, and the coveted Prime Minister's Cup at the 2024 National Youth Awards. I take this opportunity to highlight Cashay at this time because she has been selected as a regional finalist for the Commonwealth Young Person of the Year at the upcoming 2025 Commonwealth Youth Awards that will take place in Marlborough House in London next week, Wednesday. She has to travel. And this is the first time. I don't know if buses go to London, but I know she has to travel. Cashay is being recognized for her work in Sustainable Development Goal number 3, which focuses on good health and well-being. Notably, she was the first Bahamian to serve as a delegate at the International Federation of Medical Students Association at both the 10th Youth Pre-World Health Assembly and the 75th World Health Assembly in Geneva, Switzerland. Madam Speaker, we are immensely proud of Cashay and her achievements. We pray and wish her well at the upcoming awards as she prepares to bring the top prize home. We will be cheering for her throughout the country, all over the globe, most especially all Bahamians in the UK. Madam Speaker, I now turn my attention to the Department of Sports. The whistle has blown, the race is on, and the Bahamas is not just in the game. We are setting the pace. Over the past year, the Department of Sports has made significant strides aligning this country's sporting practices with global standards. This isn't just about meeting benchmarks for hosting world-class events. It's about giving our athletes, coaches, and all stakeholders the tools to compete, thrive, and dominate on the international stages. Under the theme, Breaking Limits, Achieving Greatness, the dynamic and dedicated team within my ministry is ensuring that the Bahamas delivers a punch that is both powerful and lasting, driving the nation's sports agenda with precision, passion, and purpose. Madam Speaker, we have moved away from this island chain being viewed as just a promising prospect. The Bahamas has stepped up as a true contender on the global stage. Our athletes, our programs, and our visions are commanding attention, proving that we are not just here to compete, we are here to dominate. The world now recognizes the Bahamas as a force to be reckoned with, and we are only just getting started. Like any championship team, success doesn't happen by chance. It takes vision, strategy, and execution. That is exactly what the government's blueprint for change provides. A game plan for elevating sports at every level and grassroots development to elite performance. It is this government's plan to work together to have excellent exchanges. We have invested just over $1.96 million in the Department of Sports. This breakdown includes, but is not limited to, the annual and special grants award to federations thus far, financial assistance to student athletes, local clubs, and recreational organizations. Funds were granted for the hosting of local and international sporting events to all athletes enrolled in the Subvention and Elite Athletes Program, and the $25,000 award to finalists at the Olympics. The baton is in hand, and we are sprinting forward with determination, ensuring that every policy, every investment, and every initiative strengthens our sporting ecosystem. This is not just winning medals. It is about building a legacy, one that's transformed sports into a pillar of national pride and opportunity. Madam Speaker, when the Davis-led administration took office, we set out with a clear vision to relaunch the Sports in Paradise as a premier global brand. Our goal was to position the Bahamas as the destination of choice for major international sports federations and leagues, especially during their off-season. Today, that vision is not just a dream, it's a reality. Madam Speaker, I am proud to announce that the Bahamas has been recognized by the World Travel Awards as the Caribbean leading sports tourism destination for 2024. In securing this prestigious title, we triumphed over strong contenders such as Bermuda, the Dominican Republic, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago, nations with outstanding sporting programs. The Bahamas stood out above the rest because we offer the complete package: world-class facilities, breathtaking landscapes, and an unmatched hospitality experience. Madam Speaker, the road to Paris ran through the Bahamas, and we were just getting started, and the triumphant return of the 2024 World Relays to our shores was more than a moment. It was a powerful affirmation that the Bahamas is a premier destination for global sporting events. The impact is undeniable. Thousands of visitors with sustainable financial investments and a notable surge in economic activity, all while the world spotlighted shine brightly on us. But the true return on investment wasn't solely financially. It was a resounding statement that we possess the expertise of world-class facilities and unwavering passion to deliver exceptional sporting experience. Building on the momentum, the Bahamas has its eyes firmly fixed on the 2026 World Athletics Relays. The bidding process is already well underway, with a pivotal pitch presented just yesterday morning. We're not just aiming to host. We are committed to creating lasting legacies. This endeavor is about fostering opportunities for athletes, officials, and the entire local sports industry. These investments provide our young athletes the invaluable chance to compete at home soil against the world's best, inspiring them to dream bigger and push further. We are making tremendous strides, but this is just the beginning. These strategic commitments and investments will lay the foundation for the future of sports in the Bahamas, nurturing talent, driving economic growth, and solidifying our position as a global powerhouse in athletics. The road ahead is paved with opportunity. The Bahamas is poised to take it all the way to the finish line. What we have achieved so far is just the beginning of something much greater. The World Athletics Relays in 2024 was a chapter in a much larger story. In the same year, the Bahamas hosted a series of elite events that further solidified our standing on the global sports map, from the Caribbean Baseball Championships to basketball qualifiers, swimming championships, and beyond. Madam Speaker, we are not just about sporting events. We are about the youth, the small businesses owners, and the future of our nation. Every investment we make, every event we host is an investment in the dreams of our athletes, the growth of our local economy, and the promise of a brighter future for the Bahamas. We are not just shaping the future of sports. We are creating lasting change for the Bahamas. Madam Speaker, we will continue to invest in the well-being of our people, ensuring that every Bahamian has access to the resources they need to thrive. As we continue to upgrade and renovate sporting facilities across the Bahamas, restoring old recreational sites remains a key priority. We recognize that all Bahamians, whether competing at the elite level or simply seeking a space to exercise, deserve access to quality facilities that promotes health, wellness, and athletic development. In line with this commitment, we will be restoring, I want the people in Jubilee Gardens and Tall Pines to know that we will be restoring the community pool in the Jubilee Gardens subdivision. This is a significant investment, not only for the residents of this community, but also for those in the surrounding areas. This initiative underscores our decision to expanding access to recreational and sporting opportunities, ensuring that more Bahamians can benefit from improved infrastructure. With the tremendous success of our nation has achieved on regional and international stages, we are committed to creating even more opportunities for aspiring athletes and recreational users alike. Even for those who do not wish to compete, learning to swim is a vital life skill. Swimming is not only essential for safety, but also promotes fitness and overall well-being. The community pool will serve as a safe, inclusive environment where individuals of all ages can develop this crucial skill, fostering a healthier and more active society. Madam Speaker, across the Bahamas, this government is making significant strides to ensure that no community is left behind. And I want the people in Grand Bahama, especially them said in Pine Ridge and West Grand Bahama. We will not forget Marco City, East Grand Bahama, and Central. But I just want them to know, because of West Grand Bahama and Pine Ridge, we are set to break the ground on a state-of-the-art swimming facility featuring a 50-meter pool.
Yes. Good for Grand Bahama. Awesome. In Pine Ridge.
Grand Bahama, this is coming very soon. We are waiting the completion of the drawing because we want to put those drawings up Central Grand Bahama. So when we break the ground, we start construction. We're not going to put shovel in the ground and come back months later. That's not going to happen. But the sad thing about all of this, Madam Speaker, is me being a former banker, I asked for the conveyance.
Oh boy.
For 25 years, that property was conveyed to the government of the Bahamas in 2000, in the year 2000. And it never been signed to us. But I'm happy to say that the port and I have had conversation. And at the end of this month, I will be signing those conveyance. And the government now can continue to invest in that property. Madam Speaker, this transformative investment is not just about enhancing our sporting infrastructure. It's a bold, unwavering commitment to the people of Grand Bahama and all the Bahamas. Yeah. Madam Speaker, we had expanded our support to the Father Martian Peterson basketball tournament by increasing financial assistance for Family Island schools, enabling more young athletes to compete and gain valuable experience. Modeled after the NCAA March Madness format, the tournament ran smoothly with timely matches, flexible fan attendance, and ample playing time for players. Increased participation, particularly in the junior and senior girls division, highlighted the success. Moving forward, we are committed to further expanding the program, offering more financial support and creating more competitive opportunities for growth and development. Through strong relationships and open communication with federations and stakeholders, we are set to amend the national sports policy to align with global best practices. This policy is essential for sports development in the Bahamas, setting the standards and strategic direction for athletes, coaches, and stakeholders. The proposed amendments will enhance support, improve infrastructure, and expand training and competition opportunities. Modernizing this policy, we invest in the future of the Bahamian sports, ensuring consistency, accountability, and sustainability while fostering an environment for athletes to thrive. This reform is a bold step toward promoting growth, opportunity, and a long-term success in the Bahamas. Madam Speaker, the new initiatives in our Blueprint for Change, in partnership with Urban Renewal, the Department of Sports will introduce a water sports program for the elderly, a water sports aerobics program for the elderly, launching later this month. This program underscores our dedication to inclusive sports development, ensuring that every generation benefits from physical activity and community involvement. Additionally, we are launching the Community Youth Sports Program in March of 2025, featuring 3 sports on a rotational basis every 3 months across New Providence. This structured program will be modeled for the Family Islands expansion in 2026, ensuring that young athletes across the country have access to competitive and development sporting opportunities. Madam Speaker, I just want the public to be aware that March 7th, we will be hosted our very first woman sports symposium at the Andrew Rogers Baseball Stadium, a significant milestone in our journey towards greater inclusivity and recognition of female leaders in the sporting arena. We also want the public to be aware that come March 20th to 22nd, where there'll be more than 1,500 student athletes participating in the high school nationals and primary school nationals championships. And we ask the public to please come out and support. Madam Speaker, I now turn my attention to the Department of Culture. I reflect on the achievements of the Department of Culture from July 1st to present under the guiding theme, Crafting Our Legacy, Creativity, Culture, Community. The department has made remarkable strides in strengthening and enriching the cultural fabric of our nation. With the firm belief that every Bahamian has the right to experience, participate in, and create culture, the Department of Culture has made its duty to ensure those opportunities are accessible to all. Madam Speaker, the department's mission is clear: to enable a vibrant Bahamian culture that celebrates, preserves, promotes, and stimulates cultural expression, heritage, economic empowerment, and community life. In the support of this mission, since July of 2024, the department has already invested over $3 million towards the development and execution of programs, workshops, events, and initiatives designed to support cultural practitioners, foster new entrepreneurs, and transform the cultural sector into a more dynamic, inclusive, and sustainable industry. The investment has expanded opportunities across New Providence, Grand Bahama, and the Family Islands, ensuring that every community has access to meaningful cultural experiences and resources that celebrate and strengthen our national identity. To achieve this, the department has worked diligently across 8 key focus areas, each integral to the holistic and development of our cultural landscape. Those are outreach, resources, policy research, partnership support, awareness, education, programs, and exposure. Madam Speaker, the Department of Culture has expanded its cultural outreach efforts to engage communities across the archipelago, bringing cultural experiences directly to the people. Outreach efforts have created new opportunities for Bahamians of all backgrounds to connect with their heritage and express their creativity. The department has embarked on a number of projects that provide cultural social building at the community level. As an example, Madam Speaker, in Abaco, a backyard farming community group was established in partnership with the Murphytown community. Assistance was secured from a nonprofit organization to distribute free garden and farming kits. The aim is to promote self-sustainability and food security, especially in preparation for potential future natural disasters. This initiative empowers residents with the skills and resources needed to cultivate their own food, fostering resilience in the face of climate challenges. Madam Speaker, I have 2 more minutes. In addition, with the unwavering support of the Department of Culture, prayer service and community walkabouts have been actively carried out, uniting communities and reinforcing the powerful message of the Department of Culture for peace. Initiative, Madam Speaker. The department has increased resources, amplifying its support for artists, performers, and cultural entrepreneurs by offering vital cultural grants and workshops in the arts and dynamic performance opportunities, empowering creatives to refine their craft, share their talents, and thrive in a flourishing cultural landscape. Madam Speaker, in regards to policy and research, the Department of Culture recognized that culture must be protected and nurtured through strong policies and informed decision-making. The department is actively engaged in the draft of the National Cultural Policy, which is essential in establishing a structured and sustainable framework for the empowerment of Bahamian cultural artists and the broader citizenry. The National Cultural Policy will serve as a blueprint that guides government, investment, legislation, and initiatives aimed at nurturing the creative industries, preserving heritage, and fostering innovation. By setting clear objectives and strategies, it ensures that artists have access to funding, training, and professional development opportunities, while also promoting fair compensation and intellectual property protections. Moreover, the National Cultural Policy seeks to enhance accessibility by integrating arts and culture into education, community programs, and public spaces, ensuring that all Bahamians, regardless of age, ability, background, or location, can experience, participate in, and contribute to the nation's rich cultural tapestry. This policy will not only safeguard traditions, but will also stimulate economic growth by positioning the cultural sector as a vital pillar of national development. Madam Speaker, the department has been actively engaged in research initiatives to document, preserve, and evolve Bahamian cultural traditions. Our work in cultural policy development will set the foundation for sustained growth and national recognition of our creative industries. In partnership with UNESCO, the Department of Culture is working on several projects that catalog the intangible cultural heritage of the Bahamas and archives our traditions. You want to say you want? Yeah, I only got 2 more minutes.
I rise to move that the business of the House proceed for 2 or 3 more minutes beyond 1 p.m.
Thank you, honorable members. It has been moved and seconded that the business of this House proceed beyond the 1 p.m. hour. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The business of this House will now proceed beyond the 1 p.m. hour. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam
Honourable
Speaker. Madam Speaker, partnership and support in cultural has been stronger collaborations this fiscal year, which is at the heart of our progress. The department has forged meaningful partnership with private sectors, entities, international organizations, and local cultural groups to amplify our impact. These partnerships have enabled funding, capacity building, and opportunities that empower cultural practitioners to reach new heights. Madam Speaker, partnership with international organizations as UNESCO, the OAS, the IFACCA, and the IDB, CARICOM, and country embassies have led to the Department of Culture being able to attend international seminars, summits, and meetings that have informed the process and procedure of the staff. These experiences in such countries as China, Paraguay, Panama, India, and Puerto Rico has enhanced the quality and organization of its program, providing the public with more refined and impactful cultural offerings. Madam Speaker, the Department of Culture is focused on cultural awareness. A strong emphasis has been placed on cultural awareness, ensuring that Bahamians recognize the depth of richness of our traditions. Through our dynamic initiatives, Culture in the Park, Culture at the Key, and the community mural programs, the Department of Culture is igniting a powerful sense of national pride by bringing together cultural artists, artisans, and vendors of all backgrounds and abilities. We are transforming public spaces into vibrant showcase of Bahamian heritage, creativity, and community spirit. Madam Speaker, cultural education remains the cornerstone of the Department of Culture mandate. Cultural arts education is essential because it nurtures creativity, critical thinking, and self-expression, while preserving and promoting cultural heritage. By exposing individuals to various artistic disciplines, it fosters a deeper appreciation for history, traditions, and diverse perspectives, strengthening cultural identity and pride. Additionally, cultural arts education enhances cognitive and social skills, encouraging problem-solving, collaboration, and emotional intelligence. It also opens doors to career opportunities that creative industries, contributing to economic growth and innovation. Most importantly, it ensures that the future generations have the knowledge, skills, and inspiration to continue shaping and evolving their cultural landscape, keeping traditions alive while embracing new artistic expressions. In addition to workshops in the arts and in business of arts, the Department of Culture also has expanded the all-boys after-school program to 3 schools and has implemented a religious culture after-school program. The 2024 Summer Culture Program was also a success in providing over 1,000 participants with mentorship and education in the arts in Abaco, Grand Bahama, Northern Central Andros, Long Island, Eleuthera, and New Providence. Also in October in 2024, the department hosted a second Culture Career Expo exposing high school students to the various employment avenues of the arts and culture. Madam Speaker, the Department of Culture supports schools by providing arts programs offering valuable opportunities for students to engage in creative expression, notably the Aaron H. Gilmore School for the Blind, as well as TAPS and SHORE programs, benefit from the artistic expertise of the departments of staff. Additionally, the William A. Pratt and Simpson Penn facilities residents who took the national examination, Madam Speaker, in art and craft design at the BJC and BGCSE level achieved an impressive, Minister, 100% passes rate. Earning grades from A to C at both levels. And that's the help from my cultural department. Madam Speaker, the Department of the Culture is continuously expanding initiatives that highlight the incredible artistic talents of Bahamians. Its 2 flagship programs, the E. Clement Bethel National Art Festival and the National Junkanoo Development Program, have experienced a surge in participation across the islands, reflecting a growing enthusiasm for cultural expression and interest in our cultural traditions. Madam Speaker, Bahamian culture is not just for us. It is for the world to see and celebrate. The Department of Culture has increased efforts to place Bahamian artists on international stages, ensuring that the talent and heritage of the Bahamas gain global recognition through the support of cultural exchange, exhibitions, and international showcase. The Department of Culture is seeking to broaden the reach of our creative sector. Madam Speaker, the residents of Simpson Pen and Willamette Pratt facilities recently completed murals of 2 40-foot containers, which are currently on the journey around the world, promoting the Bahamas and the talent within our country. Madam Speaker, the Department of Culture's momentum will only continue growing, driving even greater achievements and innovation in the arts. Culture is at the soul of our nation, and as we continue crafting our legacy, we must remain committed to sustaining and growing our vibrant cultural identity. I extend my deepest gratitude to the dedicated individuals in the Department of Culture, our culture practitioners, and every Bahamian who contributes to our rich artistic tapestry. Together, we will continue to celebrate, preserve, elevate Bahamian culture for generations to come. Madam Speaker, I thank you, and may God continue to bless the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Culture.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for St. Barnabas.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, through you to the Minister, the member for Garden Hills. The government had made a commitment to host the Goodwill Games. Right? That is the understanding that the government made a commitment to host the Goodwill Games, but the government has withdrawn that commitment. Can the member just clear that up for concerned citizens, please?
Host the Goodwill Games. The request was made to host the Goodwill Games. I, the minister, responsible for Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Culture, had advised the Federation that it would be best that we host the Goodwill Games in 2027. So there was nothing in writing to be committed. Yeah. Yeah. We don't want to do all one time.
What is the reason the government decided not to host the Goodwill Games, given, Honourable Member, what you just said in your contribution about sports, tourism, and so forth? What is the reason the government decided not to support hosting of the games?
Well, the government will be hosting the Bahama Games in 2026, the World Relays in 2026. Also, there is a sports policy that indicates that Federation must give 2 years in advance notice. And for that reason, I've said to the Good Federation, we will pay for them to go to the Goodwill Games as we normally do. We just wouldn't host it this time. We still support them, but
Only 500,000 to host, eh?
500,000 to host. Well, yeah, we'll have that in 27 soon as I get swearing and appointed again.
The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Freetown.
Madam Speaker, while
Members.
Madam Speaker, I now move that the business of the House be suspended to 3:15, if it pleases you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. It has been moved and seconded that the business of this House be suspended until 3:15 p.m. As many are in favor, will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The business of this House stands suspended until 3:15 p.m.
All rise!